here is the progress so far. It looks like a little hat. So let's get started! Hi everyone! Welcome to Yarn of a Kind, and today we are going to create a giant chili, and this is my first time using Yarnsmith's Create super chunky yarn, and it's actually my first time using any kind of super chunky yarn, so I'm really excited. This yarn is a Wool Warehouse brand. I bought it because it was on sale for £175, which is really affordable. It's 100 grams skein with 80 meters, and this yarn is 100% acrylic. And I know I said that I wasn't going to use so much acrylic yarn anymore, and I was going to experiment with different types of yarn, but I'm just getting started on my amigurumi journey, so using acrylic yarn has been a good way for me to fine-tune my skills while not kind of wasting the more expensive yarn. So I'm excited to get started today with this amigurumi. I couldn't find a pattern for a giant chili amigurumi online, but I found one that's for a smaller chili, and I'm going to use that as a basis to craft my bigger size one. And I'm just going to use that as a guideline, and I'm going to kind of improvise as I go along. So we'll see how it turns out. I have 2 skeins of this yarn, so I'm hoping to use up most, if not all of it, because if I don't finish using it, I'm gonna have to figure out what to do with it. So let's get started! There was no recommended hook size that came with the yarn, so I'm just going to use a 5mm hook, and I'm going to size up or down as I see fit. Quite happy to report that after crocheting a couple of amigurumi now, I can create the magic ring without too much fuss. So that's progress and makes me happy. So I'm starting off with 4 single crochet in the magic ring. And I always use my stitch marker to make sure I record where my first stitch is for each round. This is my first time using super chunky yarn, and I must say it's really chunky and I'm not used to it. I'm starting to wonder if this 5mm hook is too small, but we'll see. Pattern is pretty straightforward. It's mostly increasing by 1 stitch every round, so it's pretty straightforward. I will check back in with you guys later on when I've made a bit more progress. I've just finished round 2, and to be honest, it was a bit of a struggle. The strands just come apart a little, so whenever I insert my hook, I kind of insert it into the middle of the strands, and I'm not sure if that's the case with all super chunky yarn. Are they like this, like the strands separate a bit more easily? But it's just not very comforting to know that I might not be inserting my hook in the correct place, if you know what I mean. I've gone up to the 5.5mm hook just in case my small hook size was an issue, and let's see how this next round goes. Let me not forget to use my stitch marker. Even my stitch marker separates the strands a little bit. It's quite annoying. It takes a while to pull this yarn through. Maybe my stitches are too tight. So putting it in, yarn over, pulling it out, and then I feel like I'm crocheting in slow motion. This is so slow. Let me not judge this yarn too early on, because when I was using chenille yarn, it was really tough to work on at the beginning, but after I got used to it, it was lovely, and I loved working with chenille yarn. So let's see if I get used to super chunky yarn and all the It's a bit of a workout for my arms. That's the bottom of my chili, and I'm gonna keep working. I'm just increasing by a stitch at every round, and I have no idea what row I'm on now, so I'm just gonna follow the same kind of pattern that I've been using so far. I don't really like how it looks, but we'll see. I think, like a lot of things, it's just about trusting the process, and we'll see how the product turns out. Hi everyone, I'm editing in the dark, and I just realized that I forgot to give my final assessment of the yarn. I think it was annoying to work with in the beginning, but after I got used to it, it was alright to work with. The final product is not soft because it's acrylic yarn, so I would recommend it for people who want to learn how to crochet with super chunky yarn. Just bear in mind that the crocheting experience might not be the best, especially in the beginning, and then the final product won't be something soft and cuddly. So I don't regret buying it, and I'm glad that I had it to practice with, but I don't think I will be purchasing that yarn again. That's my opinion. So it's a little later, and I am quite pleased with the progress that I'm making with this chili. It does look like the bottom is coming into a proper shape, and the stitches are... It's getting a little easier to use the yarn now, a little easier. And if you're wondering why I'm in the kitchen, it's because I can't use the other rooms of the house to record. And in this house, there are not a lot of good backgrounds to record, so this is the best that I could do. So if you look at this item over here, this appliance is a rice cooker that my husband and I brought over from Malaysia when we were moving to Oxford. It's not that we didn't think we couldn't get... It's not that we thought we couldn't get a rice cooker in the UK, but I don't know, rice is such a key part of our diet, and we didn't want to go hunt up and down for a good rice cooker and then worry about how much money we were going to spend on it. And this rice cooker is pretty old. It has been with me for 7 years now. 7 years. I'm really glad that we have it here with us. It did take up quite a lot of space in the suitcase. I'm now at row 14, and this is the part where the pattern calls for like a steady increase. I think it's building up towards the top part of the chili. If I continued on with this pattern the way it's written, I think I would end up with a chili that's roughly double the height of this. And this is not the size that I was envisioning. I want a giant chili that can be hugged. I still have a lot of yarn, so I'm going to continue on in this fashion. So I'll make this part, I think, much longer. I don't know if this is called freehanding, I don't think so, but I'm gonna go a bit rogue on the pattern, and let's see how it turns out. This is about 1.5 hours of work. It's been taking a while because I'm not used to the yarn, and it's a bit of a workout with super chunky yarn, and my stitches are really tight. So all of that is contributing to a relatively slow process. It's been a really nice chill time. I can't believe I missed the opportunity to make a chill chili joke, but chili time, haha. But this needs to get much bigger. I think I'm gonna call it a night. It's actually a Friday. I wasn't supposed to start making this until Sunday because technically it's not a new week yet, but all the yarn was sitting on the shelf and I had just unboxed everything, so I was just really excited to use the yarn. And I also found this pattern that I really wanted to make and experiment with, and I just wanted to try out the new yarn. You know, there were just a bunch of factors that made me get started on a Friday night. But I'm gonna go have supper with my husband, and we're gonna have banana bread and watch Grand Tour. I can't believe I'm watching Grand Tour. It's the next morning and I am back at crocheting my chili. I think you can see this part where I kind of increased abruptly because I was thinking that it's not getting to a huggable size, and I really want to make it much bigger than it currently is, so I'm not sure how long that's gonna take. And here's the condition of my skein so far. I think we can keep going. It is now much later and here is the progress so far with the chili. I've put 2 safety eyes in, I haven't put the washers on. And I think I'm going to start decreasing and closing it up, and then I'm going to crochet the stem. It's not really a huggable size, but here's the state of the one skein that I was using, and I think it's time to bring this to a close. I feel like the back of the chili here is bulging a little more than the other parts of it, but it kind of looks irregularly shaped, which is kind of a little bit more like a chili, you know, compared to something that's perfectly round. So I'm not unhappy about how it's turning out. But I still have to figure out the stem, and I don't think the pattern that I found is going to work super well with what I have so far. So I'm gonna try and find another pattern and sort of adapt that to what I have. This whole thing is just an experiment. I should have stuffed this as I went along because now it's quite hard to reach the narrow part of the chili. Trying to push it in with my crochet hook, but I don't think it's doing a lot of good. My chili is fully stuffed, and here's what the chili looks like now, and the top. And here's the amount of yarn that's left over from that first skein, which was 80 meters or 87 yards. Not too much left. And now I'm ready to start with the stem, so let's get cracking. It's me again. I needed to jump in to correct myself because I've been using stem to refer to the green part of the chili pepper, but it's actually not called the stem. I looked it up, and what I'm calling the stem is called the pedicle, and I'm not sure which spelling is actually correct, but I'm inclined to think it's the CEL spelling. And then the leafy part that I created is actually not what a chili looks like. It's supposed to be very short, modified leaves, and it's called the calyx. So I completely botched this part of the chili, but let's just go with it. It's taken a while to do the stem, but this is what I have so far. I kind of improvised this part and the flat bit, and then for the leafy bits, I found a pattern and I kind of adapted that. This is what the chili looks like at the moment with the stem on. I think it looks like a little hat. I'm gonna cut off a pretty long tail because I need to sew the leaves. It's not easy to sew with a plastic needle. I really hate it when the filling starts leaking out of the stitches whenever I'm sewing stuff. But sewing this part on was so tedious, and I don't think I did the best job of it because at some parts you can kind of see where the yarn went in terms of sewing the leaves on. And I only sewed the tips of the leaves on, so I don't think the whole thing is secured, and it would take much longer if I were to sew everything, like the whole outline of the leaves. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. It's done! Or almost done. I'm gonna put a smile here. Wait for it. Okay. Here it is! The little chili, or the big chili. It's done. And I'm tired. And it took way longer than I expected. I thought that I was gonna be done with this so quickly because I was using super chunky yarn, and it's not a difficult pattern. I suppose it took more time because I was trying to figure out how to make the chili bigger, and then figuring out the stem and the leaves also took quite a bit of time. But I'm pretty happy with this, and that's my third amigurumi. Oh, there. Done. Oh, I think I can use it to hit people.